저는 윌리엄입니다. 반갑습니다. Okay, so that's it with my Korean. I'm from Tokyo. I'm from GitHub Japan, visiting Korea today. It's my very first time visiting to South Korea, and it's been my amazing journey. And I'm happy to walk you through GitHub Copilot's latest and greatest technology for the next 40 minutes. So let's get started. So in today's session, I'm planning to give you the whole vision of GitHub Copilot as of today, and some of the greatest updates we have: Copilot CLI, Copilot SDK, agentic workflow, and some of the very new release of the GitHub desktop app. And then the third session might be most interesting for you. I'm going to talk to you about our internal Copilot CLI development, how successful we have done, and what kind of harness we have been built in within the Copilot CLI team to manage the development. And I will go through some of the certification GitHub has. So GitHub Copilot, we released the product in 2021 with just a code completion product. But right now, 2026, GitHub Copilot looks very different. We added Copilot chat in VS Code, edit mode in VS Code, and agent mode now supported MCP server, agent skills, and with all of the capabilities on the issues, pull request, actions, we all have Copilot built in there. But what's the fundamental reason why we have updated all the product? It's because we have the platform of GitHub. And the GitHub originally, this is the slide from 3 years ago, and it hasn't changed. Our core of our philosophies are about collaboration, productivity, and security. And Copilot is just one of the optional feature we have on the platform. And it supports every single feature we have on the platform. And by doing that, we are thinking of modernizing the software development lifecycle. GitHub platform has always been supportive of the software development lifecycle, and we have added feature after feature to make the lifecycle smoother. And Copilot is just another tool. We've been adding tools and features for AI around SDLC. And by doing that, we're thinking of, on top of the issues, pull request, actions, dashboard, discussion page, we have embedded all the AI features throughout from the planning phase all the way to implementation, delivery, and operation monitoring and looping the circle. We have developed all the features in it. And that's the past. That's what we have been doing for 3 years. But in 2026, our environment looks a lot different as well. So in here, there's a few slides here I wanted to point out. One is how many commits we recorded in GitHub last year. Sorry, it's going through, but in 2025 we had 1 billion commits. But in the early first week of 2026, we recorded 275 million of commits a week. And if we added that in throughout the year, 2026, we expect to land 14 billions of GitHub commits. That's just from 2025 to 2026. It's going to 14 times the number of commits. Same thing can be said for the actions. 500 million minutes in 2023. We recorded 1 billion minutes 2025. And now 2026, we already have 2 billion actions minutes. It's already doubled from last year. So that's the pace of how the GitHub platform is growing. And this is, yes, the number of users in our GitHub platform increased, but the number of AIs operating on GitHub is 10 times more than last year. That's why that number is increasing exponentially. And that will bring us to this slide. The way we work may change. It used to be people doing planning, and the PM will send the job to engineer sending the job to QA, and we hand work from person to person going forward. All those actual implementation hands-on will be handled by AI, and AI will send tasks from one to another where there will be less of context lost during the handover of tasks in the future. So in terms of the Copilot features, where are we focused? Copilot has a lot of features, but we are focused on 3 areas. The first area is the area, we call it inner loop. This is where when we do a synchronized task, when engineer work on your machine, when you do a creative task, you will use VS Code agent mode, you will use Copilot CLI to do your creative task. That's one area we focus a lot. The second area we put our effort in is this part, the outer loop. This is where you already know the result. You already know how AI will react. Then what would you do? You will send the task and you leave it as is. And you will send it so many of them parallelly, let them work on 5 things at a time, 10 things at a time. We have a cloud agent. Cloud agent, you can assign issues. By Copilot, you can assign multiple of them. We have agentic workflow. If you have any triggers on your CI/CD, you can trigger it for AIs to work on. And that will build your AI asset in the future. And one last thing is code review. You've already seen how many commits we have today. We 14 times from last year. The amount of code getting created is much higher than before. And we both need to maintain the quality of people who write the code and also maintain the quality of AI writing the code. So these are the 3 areas we focus on. But more than that, we have so many features. And to the left side, it is on your local machine. We have VS Code. We have Copilot CLI, which I will cover today. And we're also going to release GitHub Desktop app with your agent orchestration desktop app. And more than that, we have so many more features on the website, github.com. I'm not going to cover all of them, but we are investing heavily on the user who are already on the github.com, who already owns a GitHub account. So you will see many more features coming into the platform. So that's the overview of how GitHub looks like today and where we stand as of now. Now I want to give you some of the updates from GitHub Copilot. First and foremost, GitHub Copilot CLI. This has been our focus. So I don't know how many of you have used GitHub Copilot CLI, but this is very new product. We released this product towards the end of last year, and it's only been here for less than a half year. And look at the number of releases we had in last year. The orange one is the number of releases from Cloud Code. The purple one is the number of release from Copilot CLI. We had super high pace of releasing, and we caught up, and we are very confident the feature delivers a very high performance, and it's also shown on the benchmark. We tested the SWE benchmark, terminal benchmark. We also recorded very high numbers. So what is it? It's just another code assistant tool. Just like VS Code, it assists your coding on the real time, changes your file. But why is it important? It's because it's built into your terminal. So the execution is very fast. If you are doing the get operations, if you are accessing to Azure AWS CLI, it's much more seamless and very fast. And one more thing, if some of you are not on VS Code today, if you're using some other editors like Visual Studio, like JetBrains, Eclipse, that's the time when if you use CLI, you will have experienced the latest features. So if you haven't installed CLI already, I would recommend you to use some of them. Now, what are some iconic features on Copilot CLI? I would say we have many features, but these 3 features are some of the most iconic ones. If you have Shift and Tab, it's going to change the mode. It will change from the normal mode to planning mode. You tap it once more, it will change it to autopilot mode. So what does planning mode does? Planning mode would plan your code without implementation, so you can have a full plan in spec before start implementation. And once the planning is done, the planning mode will generate the plan.md file. And the autopilot mode, what does it do? It will complete your task until the end. If you have used those coding agent before, I'm sure there are many cases you send one prompt, it will ask you back, what should I do with this feature? What should I use for a database? Generative AI will ask you a question, but many cases you are already thinking AI is working on something and you are getting your coffee and you are away. Autopilot mode will resolve that problem. It will run until the end. And the fleet mode, the fleet command works very well with autopilot mode. Fleet command will create a to-do. It will run in a way it can execute Copilot parallelly. So if you run fleet, it will create few sub-agent, run parallelly, get the result, keep on working. And if you can run parallelly, it will run parallelly again. So it will scale up your execution. So these are just some of the example from Copilot CLI, but very powerful. So what is sub-agent? We have default sub-agent. We have custom agent. You can define it. The key concept is sub-agent have its own context window. So in your main branch, you have your own task, but in the middle, if you want to research something, you want to learn something from the news, you want to get something from a website, you can just spin up the sub-agent and use the sub-agent to do some work, come back to the main branch so your context in the main branch is clean. That's how you can use the sub-agents. Now, let's look at some of the demo. I'll play some demo video here. So here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a small dashboard using Copilot CLI. In the dashboard, what I'm doing is I'm trying to create a Copilot dashboard using the Copilot metrics API we have. I'm sending them the documentation of Copilot metrics API and asking it to, why don't you plan a application building for me? And in the planning mode, it will go ahead and plan. And in here, it's blah, 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 and planning a lot of features. And once it's done, it will come back and ask me, my planning is done. Do you want me to implement this? And in the implementation phase, it sometimes would even ask you, I recommend you to use fleet command and autopilot mode to implement our plan. In that case, it would just say, go ahead and do the plannings. In such way, it will start implementation, and just like that, I think in just 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the time, the Copilot finish the implementation and we have the dashboard ready. And if you can look closely into the execution, you will see some of the agents that are running in parallel. I don't quite have the screen here, but if you run your fleet command, sometimes you will see general purpose agent, 4 of them popping up all together. And that shows there are 4 agents that's running behind the scene. And once it's done, it will disappear. It will run again. And sooner or later, it will pop up another 4 agents and run for you. That's how powerful the sub-agents are. And there are many more use cases. It's not just about creating an application. If you can also review your code, you can create automation. And what's very powerful is if you created some complicated prompts, you can create a agent skills or a custom agent to turn them into your asset and reuse them. That's also a very useful use case. So what are some other releases we had with Copilot CLI? This is a remote control of Copilot CLI. If you type a Copilot -- remote, it will create a URL with a QR code where you can scan them and you can use the session on your GitHub mobile app, on github.com webpage, or on the VS Code. So this is basically a mobile app where you are controlling your Copilot CLI session remotely. We also have like command like keep alive command / keep alive command will keep your machine, keep your Windows machine, keep your Mac machine from sleeping. So you can use all these new commands, the / remote commands and / keep alive commands to really control your machine without being in front of the computer. So that's a very powerful tool as well. So that's a little about Copilot CLI. So what about SDK? We support 6 languages for SDK. And just like that, we can do the same thing to implement SDK. Earlier, we saw we created the metrics API dashboard. Now we're asking them to create a Copilot chatbot on top of the metrics API dashboard. I send them again how SDK works. I send them the URL of SDK and it starts implementation. It's all the same thing. It will plan and it will implement. During the planning phase, it will come back to me and ask for how does the UI should look like. Should I compress the chatbot or should it always be open? What kind of database should I use? It's asking a lot. And now I'm implementing /fleet command to, okay, let's deploy and create an application. And let's skip a little. There you go. We finished. This is, I think I used around 15, 20 minutes to implement this. Now it takes in the chat in my metrics API dashboard. If you're using Copilot CLI, there's also a command called /usage. So if you press /usage at the end of your implementation, it will show you how many premium requests you used, how much minutes you used for this session, and all those detail about the sessions. So that's also a very useful command. So that's about Copilot SDK. We support 6 languages. And if you need some of the AI in your application, you can use Copilot SDK to manage the conversation, manage the session, manage the tool calling. You can have all the lifecycle management of the SDK. We also have some cool examples from SDK. This is an example of the web UI and PowerPoint extension. I lost my mouse. Oh, there you go. So sorry, the screen is very small, but on the left side, we implemented Copilot in the Chrome extension. And now we have a chat window on your Google Chrome, and we are asking on the Amazon page, we want to buy something, and can you check it out? That's also managed by Copilot. The other one is the extension in PowerPoint desktop application. We embedded Copilot SDK into PowerPoint extension. Now we have small icon on the top right corner of the PowerPoint with Copilot icon. And you click that, you're asking PowerPoint to create this slide, manage that slide. The GitHub Copilot is changing the PowerPoint slides. So just like that, we can have a lot of use cases with SDK. Now, the last one I want to talk about is agentic workflow. What agentic workflow does is if you have anything that you are running on the daily basis, you can put them into CI/CD workflows. For example, you can create a agentic workflow that's triggered by a issue creation. You create a GitHub issue, it triggers the AI execution right after the creation and it do the research. You can trigger by when you created a pull request. You create a pull request, it will review immediately. Or it can be CI/CD error analysis. When your CI/CD GitHub Actions fails, it will do analysis and create a pull request to fix the CI/CD. It's all the automations. Or sometimes you can update your documentations. Created your source code, updated your source code, how the documentation can change. These are all the features you can use. So why don't we take a look at that? So this again is the API metrics dashboard. We are planning to now implement a feature that's whenever the source code is changed, I want to upgrade the documentation of the application. So in reality, the agentic workflow should detect whenever I merge the source code, and once the source code is merged, it will update the documentation. And I can implement that with just one single prompt. Just like that, I was asking Copilot to implement the agentic workflow, and once it's done, it will push the code, and now it's available on the GitHub page. And once you see the action runs finishes, you go back to your pull request, you will see GitHub action is creating a pull request saying, oh, this is the source code you changed. Why don't you update your documentation like this as well? And if I merge this pull request, the documentation is also converted. Just like that, I can update the documentations. So these are all the updates with CLI, SDK, and agentic workflow. Now we have one more release coming into GitHub. It is GitHub Copilot desktop application. So we have it on technical preview, so any of you can use it, but on the June 2nd, we are planning to publicly announce this application. June 2nd is our Microsoft Build 2026. It will be our main updates for GitHub Copilot. So now I want to turn the page into, I think one of the most interesting topic of the day. It is the internal use case about GitHub Copilot. So I'm sorry, I need to turn off the auto scroll. I was just curious, how many of you are using GitHub Copilot on daily basis? Can you raise your hand if you are using GitHub Copilot on daily basis? So half of the rooms are using Copilot. Okay, thank you very much. I should have asked in the beginning. Thank you. So let me talk about our internal development. This has been a very key success for GitHub Corporation. We have always experienced a lot of competition around generative AI tools in the field. It's not only this year competition with Claude Code. Last year we had competition with Cursor, and back then we were the only one. So 2024, 2025, 2026, we were always under the fierce competition, but we were very slow on developing the products. The reason why is GitHub grew in number. We became a large organization. Decision making takes time, and development were slow. And it's always not the case where we can create a proper features. But Copilot CLI was very successful. We released last year. Now all the features came in, and we now have very competitive experience on Copilot CLI. How did we able to do that? So in this team, and even today, this Copilot CLI team is merging 500 pull requests every week. That's 500 pull requests. And the number of people in this Copilot CLI team is only 10 people. We have 10 engineers working on the product, with 500 pull requests. And this 10 people look over 4 projects. They look over Copilot CLI, they look over Copilot SDK, and they also look over Copilot Cloud Agent runtime and the Copilot Code Review runtime. So it's the back-end logic of our Copilot Code Review and Cloud Agent. And how were we able to deliver in such pace? And how did we deliver this continuously throughout 6 months? We had a lot of challenges, and we can see it through the source code as well. In the source code, 54% of the codes are made by testings. And we figured out we need to strengthen our feedback loop to maintain the agent experience to keep the agility of the development. And we also need to maintain the guardrail of testing, formatter, linters, all of the harness to make sure agent doesn't run off. The quality of pull requests are also very, very important because generative AI looks at the source code and it creates the source code based on the existing code. So if the bad codes gets in, AI will create bad code and the code base will get worse and worse. And one more thing we figured out was all those hyped social media development format doesn't work for GitHub. There are many posts on social media about multi-agent orchestration, many posts on social media about fully automating the development lifecycle. But that didn't really work for the organization of GitHub. And in fact, for so many of other companies, organizations, such way doesn't really work. We really needed governance and orchestration of the agents. So what are the challenges we faced during the development? There are few challenges we had. One is the test speed of testing. It keeps on getting slower because we maintain the full set of end-to-end tests. It keeps on growing. We need to maintain the test shorter to keep the feedback loop tight. We also needed linter. As the linter doesn't work, the source code is just keep on getting worse. We need to maintain the linter. And we also need some deterministic formatters embedded in the source code. And CI feedback loop has to be improved. It has to be very short. And the size of the repository also need to be very short. The amount of lines of code needs to be smaller to maintain it. So it's all the challenges we faced in order to keep the agility of the development. So what we did, for example, we have fully covered end-to-end testings. And in here, you can see as we keep on creating the repository larger, the amount of time it takes for the E2E test will grow longer. So we need to implement the cache to make E2E test from 2 minutes to 25 seconds. We cut it quarter. But the product became even larger. Now E2E test runs for 12 minutes. We need to cut it again. It's cutting into 4 minutes. So it's 1/3 the time. And you can see the number of pull requests here. It's 1,615. This is the pull request we created early January, so like 4 months ago. But yesterday I checked the number of pull requests recorded on this repository. It's already late digit of 9,000. So that's like 8,000 pull requests created within the course of 4 months. And if we divide it by the number of weeks, that's about 500 pull requests. So we showcased we are still maintaining the speed of development. And some other things we did was as we grow the product larger, the test will keep on failing. So we need to increase the coverage of our E2E test. We also noticed, yes, the team is only 10 engineers, but Copilot CLI everyone's using, and so as GitHub employees. So this repository ended up with more than 200 people accessing every single day, and it was so busy. So we needed to cut out the feature out, cut the Copilot CLI to the different repository. This is in order to maintain the repository small, number of people interacting with the repository smaller. And in the beginning, we didn't put the type check, we didn't put the linters, but the source code will get worse. So we spent some time to fix 5,000 linters altogether. So that's the type of implementation we made. So I also went and checked out the Copilot CLI created pull requests to see how the experience is. So what I did was, in fact, it's related to Korean language too. Look at this. If you press /skill, the UI was broken. So I said we should fix it. If we type in Japanese, Korean, Chinese, the format was failing. So we should fix it. That was the issue I created. I merged the source code. So what happened was the implementation itself didn't take much time. It's like 30 minutes. We need to change the formatting of the front end. And on top of that, we have a rule set to create testing when we created a feature as well in the Copilot CLI rule. So we created testing. And anytime when GitHub ships the product, we need to create changelog, what we changed. So 3 things, the feature, the test, and changelog. It was about 30 minutes. And I ran through Copilot code review. We also have a skill in Copilot CLI repository, which governs the code review. So if needed, we can run the skill to further review the code. Once it's done, it's the most interesting part. It will start running 102 checks on GitHub Actions. It will build, test, do E2E tests, do the security test, do the type check, do the linter check, check the quality of the source code, do all the things just in 12 minutes. It's very short. And once it's done, I'll give a check. Once the check is done, it will send my pull request to the Slack, and the team from engineering team will check. But really, no one will reply you. They will just give you a check, and we merged. So that was just about like 1 hour experience, and we were able to ship this small feature into Copilot CLI. I could have done it, so anyone can do a small changes to our Copilot CLI. So in short, yes, Copilot CLI was a very, very successful project. We are still developing 500 pull requests in a week, but at a cost. We needed to maintain the test. We need to maintain the experience of the agent. So as an organization trying to create a full AI-driven development lifestyle, it costs a lot, but we proved we're able to do one thing. So to my last agenda, today is MCT Summit. So let me cover some of the certification we have on GitHub. Until last year, we had 5 certifications: Foundation, Copilot, Advanced Security, GitHub Actions, and Administration. Recently, we shipped one more new certification. It's still in beta, so it might not be available in your courseware, but it will be available soon. It's the Agentic AI Developer certification. So let me cover one by one. Copilot Foundation, it's the basic of Copilot Foundation. It gives you all the introductory knowledge about Copilot. We have the study guide, we have the resources. And GitHub Copilot, this is the second most popular certification in GitHub. If you're interested in GitHub Copilot, if you haven't done it already, I think this is a great place for you to start. We also have the study guide and resources here. I think these are a little bit more niche and optional. Advanced security, it's a security feature in GitHub, and we have a GitHub Actions certification. This actually ties into Azure certification as well. It's about all the DevOps training. This is also one of the popular certification. For admin, if you have chance to train those IT department ones managing GitHub, GitHub administration is the one to go. And now we have so many people spending hours and hours managing and configuring agent behavior. And if that's the type of things you're interested in, this would be the certification you might want to try it. Lastly, if you are GitHub partners, if you are our CSP partner, if you are licensed partners, we have partner certification as well, GitHub Sales Professional and GitHub Tech Sales Professional, and these certifications are available as well. So that would cover my presentation of the day. I hope something was useful for you, and please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
질문 있으신 분 할까요?
あ、いろいろあっけ。なんか日本語で質問することになったんですけど、お客さんの中でなんか GitHub のエンタープライズサーバーを使ってコパイロットを使いたいっていう人がで、この場合なんかオンプラメスの方に、サーバーがあって結局コパイロットはクラウドにあるみたいな状況になりそうなんだけど、こういう場合なんかベストプラクティスみたいなものがありますか？
뭔지 설명을 좀 해주시면. 마이크 있습니다.
아, 네. 저 갑자기 1호로 질문해서 질문했던 거는 이제 제가 만나는 고객 중에 이 그러니까 GitHub 엔터프라이즈 서버를 온프레임에서 쓰고 싶으신 거예요. 그래서 코드는 이제 자기 안에 놓고 싶고, 하지만 GitHub 코파일럿을 통해서 AI 어시스턴트는 쓰고 싶다. 요런 이렇게 약간 좀 약간 기형적이긴 한데, 원래는 이제 엔터프라이즈 서버를 그러니까 클라우드로 쓰면 그냥 다 해결되는 문제인데 뭔가 코드를 바깥에 놓고 싶지 않다. 요런 이야기를 되게 강하게 하셔가지고 이런 상황이 되었거든요. 그래서 만약에 그런 경우에 이제 코드는 안에 있고 코파일럿은 밖에 있는데 어떤 식으로 보통 하는 게 좋을 것 같으냐라는 이야기를 질문하였습니다. なんか日本語で話したらじゃあ通訳しますから。
あ、そうしますか。
そうします。
わかりました。じゃあ、
1호로 말씀해 주시면 제가 한국말로 바꿔드릴게요.
じゃあ日本語でいきましょうか。
あ、そうしましょう。
そうですね。今のご質問は韓国の中ですごくたくさん出てきている韓国特有のリクエストであり、本当にたくさん聞くフィードバックなんですね。
지금 제가 질문 드린 거는 사실 GitHub 쪽에서는 한국에서 엄청나게 많이 나오는 질문이고, 실제로 저 말고도 이렇게 일상적인 쪽에서 이렇게 질문이 많이 들어가서 되게 한국에서 되게 많은 그러니까 니즈이긴 하시대요.
で、この時に考えないといけないのが、社内でどこまでAI の利用を緩和してもいいのかっていうところをベースに、どの段階で使っていかないといけないのかを考える必要があって、で主に4つのアプローチがあって、1つ目まで話しちゃいますね。1つ目のアプローチがやはり、本当に GitHub サーバーでの運用でいいんだっけっていうのを改めて社内の中で問い直していただいて、やっぱりパッチの運用だったりサーバーの運用自体すごく大変なものなので、それって今の時代ほとんどの企業がクラウドに移行しているのであれば、一度 GitHub サーバー自体を GitHub エンタープライズクラウド側へのマイグレーションを考えてもらって移行していく。それは一つ目の一番アグレッシブな考え方になります。
그래서 이게 여러 가지 이야기가 있는데 크게 이제 4가지로 답변 드리고 있는데, 일단 제일 첫 번째는 정말 온프라미스에서 클라우드 엔터프라이즈 서버만 사용해야만 하는가, 클라우드로 올라올 수는 없는가 하는 거에 대해서 한번 내부적으로 검토해 주기를 말씀드리는 상황이고요.
I know it was very typical GitHub answer, but I'll give more generous advice in next 3 answers. じゃあ残り3ついっちゃいますね。で、じゃあ2つ目のアプローチ何かっていうと、GitHub サーバーはそのまま残してもらって、ターミナルであったり CLI だったり、いわゆる手元のものを体験してもらうために、クラウド上にアカウントだけ作って、ソースコードは、GitHub Copilot を使うけれども、GitHub のサーバーは引き続き運用して、そのソースコードの管理はオンプレに残します。
그래서 결국 정말로 이렇게 클라우드를 못 쓰겠다라고 하시면은 이제 지금 이렇게 소개해 주신 게 뭐 CLI도 있고 뭐 IDE에 써서 사용하실 수 있고 여러 가지 사용하실 수가 있는데, 그래서 클라우드 말고 그다음에 온프레미스에 있는 소스 코드를 그러니까 클론 하셔가지고 내 PC에서 모든 걸 처리하고 이제 하는, 그래서 클라우드에는 계정만 만들고 소스 코드는 온프레미스에 있는 이런 방식이 두 번째라고 하시고요.
ありがとうございます。で、3つ目が、これはすごく韓国特殊なんですけれども、本当にリクエストが多くて、サーバーしか使えないんだけれども、 クラウド上の機能をどうしても使いたいというお客さんたくさんいらっしゃるので、カスタムメイドで韓国のために作った機能がいくつかあるんですね。それが裏側ではコパイロット CLI が動いているんですけれども、コパイロットのクラウドエージェントだったりとか、コパイロットのコードレビューだったりとか、そういったようなものを疑似的に再現したものっていうのを提供しているので、手元のVS コードしか動かない環境に変わりはないんだけれども、GitHub のサーバー上に対して各種ウェブ上のサービスを提供するようなものを疑似的に模倣したものもご提供しているので、それも一つ選択肢に入ってくると思います。
세 번째 게 이건 저 처음 듣는데 뭔가 그 한국에서 이런 요청이 너무 많으니까 그러니까 온프레미스 안에서 이런 클라우드의 기능 몇 가지를 할 수 있도록 하는 거를 GitHub에서 제공을 하고 있대요. 그래서 기본적으로는 CLI를 사용해서 하고 있긴 하지만 그 뒤쪽 백단에서 이제 바깥으로 나가지 않고 안쪽에서 이렇게 해가지고 작업을 할 수 있는 그런 기능을 GitHub에서 제공하고 있다고 합니다. 소노키는 어때? 헤이교데키테르 때 하나씩 됐으면.
提供してますよ。ご案内できますよ。
뭔가 그게 실제로 제공하고 있고 뭔가 안내해 주실 수 있다고 합니다.
じゃあ最後に一番聞きたかったご回答をさせていただきますね。ごめんなさい、待たせちゃって。きっとGitHub サーバーで使ってて動かせないっていうことはエアギャップの環境で使ってて、もうそもそも兵役網で外出れませんっていう環境だと思うんですね。そうなった時にやっぱりモデルも外側のもの使えないし、そもそもの認証もできれば外出たくないっていうことだと思うんです。であればもうモデル自体も自身のデータセンターの中で抱えていただいて、それこそそのキミみたいなオープンソースのモデルだったりとか、サムスンさんであればご自身の AI モデルとかお持ちだと思うので、そういったようなものに VS コードだったりとかコパイロット CLI をつなぎ込んでいただくことできるんですよ。でさらに今までだとそれでも GitHub アカウントに対する認証だけしてくださいねっていうようなリクエストだったんですけれども、それもアップデートでなくなって認証自体突破した上でそのまま GitHub コパイロット CLI にモデルをつなげて、もうそもそも外との通信をすることなくコパイロットの CLI のエクステンションさえ手元にあればコパイロット自体が動かせますよというものも実現可能になるので、兵役の中で完結するコパイロットの利用もできるようになってます。
이게 마지막 네 번째인데 가장 난이도 있어 보이긴 하는데, 일단은 그 망분리 상태에서의 내용을 질문하셨다고 이해하고 계셔서 아마 이게 정답일 거라고 생각하신다는데, 기본적으로 사내에 뭐 LLM 그런 모델이 있다고 하시면은 그쪽과 연결해서 그 코파일럿 CLI를 사용할 수 있는 기능이 이미 구현되어 있고요. 그래서 그런 부분들을 하면 이제 인증은 어떻게 할 거냐는 건데, 인증조차도 그 망 안에서 모든 게 처리되는 기능이 GitHub에서 지원이 된다고 합니다. 그래서 일단 그런 기능을 사용하면 그 안에서 모든 게 처리된다라고 답변해 주셨습니다.
ありがとうございます。
네, 감사합니다.
시간이 많지 않아서 이 정도에서 세션을 끝내고자 합니다. 오늘 수고해주신 윌리엄님께 박수 한번 부탁드리겠습니다. Thank you, William. Thank you for the session. 다음 세션은 11시 50분에 MCT를 위한 새로운 수익 엔진이라고 하는 주제로 김재승님께서 발표를 해주실 건데요. 50분이라 시간이 많지 않으시니까 자리 그냥 그대로 계셔도 될 것 같습니다. 감사합니다.